Hey, it's Dave Brown here, host of Now with Dave Brown on AMI. Check out this latest highlight from the show. This September, Canadian Blind Hockey will host #Courage21, a special skating challenge to celebrate 10 years of achievements. Here to tell you more about it and discuss what the organization has been up to is Matt Morrow, the Executive Director of Canadian Blind Hockey, and he joins us bright and early this morning via Skype in Vancouver, BC. Hey, Matt, thank you for waking up early for us. We appreciate it.
Hey, no problem, Dave. I was actually in Ontario the last couple weeks, so I'm still on Eastern time.
These time zones can be a little bit tricky and they can mess with the mind. Hey, Matt, it's been a minute since you and I have had a chance to hang out, and I would be sincerely shocked if a lot of regular listeners and viewers were not familiar with the work that Canadian Blind Hockey does. But give us a reminder, give us the elevator pitch for those who might be tuning in for the first time today about the work that Canadian Blind Hockey does.
Sure. I think the name kind of sums it up, really. At the end of the day, we're a national registered charity, and we run programs for Canadians who are blind or partially sighted to be able to participate in the sport of hockey. So really making hockey accessible coast to coast.
I mean, that's what they call an elevator pitch right there. I mean, we didn't even get a couple floors in the elevator to get that one out. That's well done, Matt. I think you've given that one before. Hey, so listen, let's just jump into this as we reflect on the last 18 months of the state of this world. How's the organization been handling life during the pandemic?
Yeah, it's been really interesting. It's been another challenge. I think the one thing that we had going for us is that as an organization, we've always had to be very adaptable, right? We've been kind of pioneers in creating programs that truly make hockey accessible, learning new coaching techniques, and spreading that around the world. And that's what we've been doing for the last 10 years. So when COVID came and we were no longer allowed to do in-person programs, it was just, a new challenge for us. How do we adapt so that we can use, pivot to online platforms like most organizations did? And the response was great. We had, an entire series. We had our Blind Hockey at Home series at the start of the pandemic. And that kind of transitioned more into just general ongoing programming that we didn't have before. So we had a webinar workshop series with some amazing guests on things like sports nutrition, at-home workout techniques, mental performance coaching, stick handling workshops. We had, just inspirational guests, players that had played in the NHL. I particularly enjoyed interviewing Cliff Ronning from our friends at the Canucks alumni. And we ran a series of camps. We ran several national team camps, summer development camp last summer, and the very first ever girls and women's blind hockey camp, which was awesome. So all in all, we've been, doing our best with these 18 months. In addition to the virtual stuff, we've actually had time to kind of work on the business aspect of the organization as well. And then one of the things we're working on now is just planning to kind of come out of COVID with our first major project, which is the Courage 21 inline skate fundraiser, and celebrate really, all the growth over the last 10 years and set us up for the next 10.
Yeah, it was 10 years ago when you and I met for the first time when Mark DeMontis was doing his inline skate across the country. So certainly it's been an incredible decade of growth and a lot of hard work from you and your colleagues inside the organization. So tell us a little bit about Courage 21. What's going to be going down in September?
Yeah, thanks. So it's a really exciting project. For those that are maybe unaware of the story, Canadian Blind Hockey was formerly called Courage Canada Hockey for the Blind. And the way that got started was when blind hockey player Mark DeMontis lost his sight and discovered blind hockey. He learned that, the sport had been in Canada for, however many years, 50 years, but it really wasn't organized at a national level and there was no funding for it. And really more importantly, there were no children and youth programs. It was adult only at the time. So Mark took it upon himself to inline skate from Toronto to Vancouver in 2009 to raise some funds to start programs to get the kids out on the ice. And then he followed it up in 2011 with a skate from Halifax to Toronto. And really those two skates generated the funds that allowed blind hockey to go from, what we generally refer to as just a, Canadian only pastime to actually starting the pathway to become an actual para sport. So when we're looking at kind of everything that had been achieved over the last 10 years and realizing that all kind of started with these inline skates, we had a conversation with Mark, and it was actually his idea. He came to us about doing a 10-year celebration skate. And obviously, the skate to Vancouver, I think, took 5 months. The skate to Toronto was over 2 months. We at this stage in life, not everybody has that much time to take off to do that. And so we thought we could tighten it up and make it a 10-day fundraiser. And the really neat thing to me is the first time it was just Mark doing it by himself. It was just an idea he had. The blind hockey community was really small. There weren't a lot of support for him along the way because we just didn't have blind hockey players between Toronto and Vancouver. Now, if you fast forward 10 years, the community's grown so much that Mark isn't doing it alone anymore. It's going to be 4 main blind hockey players. That's Mark Demonis, Canadian national team captain and president Kelly Serbu, national team player Francois Beauregard, and new blind hockey player Matt Shaw, who's going to be part of the main team along with 4 guides, myself, our program manager Luca Demonis, PJ Power from the first 2 inline skates, one of Mark's dear friends, and Francois' guide Marc Lafortune. So that's going to be the main team, but we're also going to have a whole series of guest skaters joining us, players that live in these communities along the way to come skate for 10K through their home community. We're going to have probably some celebrity guest skaters coming out that we're working on. And our girls and women's program coordinator, Laura Mark, is going to be joining us for the last few days of the trip as well. So really, we're going to try to get some children and youth out there at various stops and just kind of get everybody in the region that's part of the blind hockey community out and about and having some fun.
That sounds outstanding and a great idea. And like you said, sometimes in life, taking 5 months to skate across the country is not quite as feasible. So tightening that up to 10 days definitely makes some sense to me. Matt, where are you hoping the funds are going to go towards, the funds that you're raising here with this event?
So this is our most ambitious fundraiser to date. We adopted crowdfunding in 2018, and we've had some great success with it. We've had several campaigns where we've raised over $50,000, but we thought, you know, that the funds that were raised in the 2009 and 2011 skates, that was the single game changer for blind hockey. I mean, the sport, we know the sport has been played at the W. Ross Macdonald School for the Blind since the 1930s. We know that Toronto Ice Owls were founded in 1972. And yet, you know, when those skates happened in approximately 2009, 2011, you know, the sport of blind hockey was on life support. There were 4 teams in the country, there were 45 players, and that was it worldwide. And so, you know, if you want to look at a clear moment in time as to what changed with blind hockey, it's definitely those 2 skates and having some dedicating funding that allowed the community to come together. Now, if you look at what's happened over the last 10 years since, and partially this is, you know, our fantastic partnership with our presenting partner, AMI, as well as our national program, CNIB Foundation, and then, you know, all our other many partners that have come on over the last 10 years. Because we've been able to have, you know, a staff, we've been able to have a budget where we can travel around and run these events. We've actually now got 14 programs across Canada. The sport is now played in 6 countries worldwide. So there's nearly 20 programs in the United States. There's the program with Blind Ice Hockey UK. We have programs starting in Sweden, programs starting in Finland. There's actually 6 teams in Russia, which is incredible, seeing as they only started about a year and a half ago. We've got interest in non-traditional hockey countries like Australia and Italy. So the long-term vision for this sport, ever since our founding meeting in 2010, has always been to create a world championships, get the sport to a place where we can apply for inclusion in the Paralympic Games. And so we want, you know, Canadian boys and girls who are blind or partially sighted to know that they can grow up and they can play hockey at any level they want, whether they want to play recreationally, whether they want to play in the girls and women's program, whether they want to aspire and try to make the national team, right? So I think we're well on our way to that goal. And I think if we can achieve this $100,000 fundraising goal, that's really going to set us up for the next 10 years of growth and allow us to continue to do some pretty special things.
Now, folks don't necessarily need to wait till September to contribute. Where can they go if they want to start offering some fundraising assistance right now?
Oh, thanks for that, Dave. And it's actually, we have so far achieved $25,000 of our $100,000 goal over the last month. So, you know, thank you to our community. And I know several of you are probably listening. For your contributions. If anybody would like to help out, the easiest thing to do, if you don't follow us on social, would be to just go to CanadianBlindHockey.com. It's the very first thing on our website, the Courage 21 fundraiser. Follow the link and it will take you to our Canada Helps page, which explains, you know, everything about what we're doing, as well as a very simple way to make a donation. The tax receipts processed immediately. We truly thank anybody for their support that can help us get closer to our goal.
Matt, let's go beyond the fundraising side here because it's becoming a pretty exciting time. We've seen a lot of the American teams and programs getting back on the ice. I've seen some videos on Facebook of a couple of the Canadian teams getting back on the ice. So what's coming up this year in the 2021-2022 season for Canadian blind hockey?
I think we have a little bit of jealousy here in Canada because we are a little bit behind our American counterparts. They're actually having a big tournament this weekend. So best of luck to everybody down there participating in that. But for us, it's really going to start with this Courage 21 campaign. And I think with the recent change in restrictions in Ontario, I believe we are good to go to host blind hockey games as part of the event. So we're still working out the details, but it's looking like the weekend of, it's the long weekend, so the 4th to the 6th, when we're coming through Toronto, that one of those days we're hoping to get an hour and a half of ice and have our first blind hockey game in 18 months. So
nice.
I imagine we'll have some rusty players, but the purpose is just to get out there and have some fun. The next major thing, and actually you got a good picture there of Team Canada with their gold medals from Ottawa on the screen. So the next thing is actually the Canadian national team traveling down to the USA Hockey Blind Hockey Classic, and that's in St. Louis from October 22 to 24. So the border issue is still, being resolved, but I think we're getting guidance hopefully in the next month, and then have to figure out, the appropriate safety plans and all that. But it's looking like that event is hopefully a go. Our first major post-COVID event, which I'm really excited for, is the 2021 Western Regionals. We're bringing that to Calgary, right to the Winsport facility, which is the Hockey Canada facility where the women's national team will be centralized. That's going to take place from November 5th to 7th. And we're expecting a major turnout. So it's very likely going to be the first 4-team tournament we've done outside of our annual national tournament in Toronto. We received a grant from Sport Canada through an innovation grant, and that's going to help us put on children and youth camps over the next 3 years. So this year we were unable to do the summer camp just with timelines surrounding the COVID restrictions. And instead, we're going to do some mini camps. So we're going to have weekend camps. The Ontario camp will be at W. Ross in late January. We've got a camp that's going to happen in Vancouver around the same time, and then one in Atlantic Canada. So that's kind of an exciting opportunity because not only is that hockey, it's a multi-sport camp. And we're just really trying to get all the children in the region that are blind or partially sighted together, to introduce them to a bunch of sports and see which ones they might like. And hopefully, a good number of them choose hockey and help grow in the game. And then the big one that I know the whole blind hockey world is going to be excited for is hopefully we can run a more or less normal 2022 Canadian National Blind Hockey Tournament in March. And for those that maybe are unaware, when we had to cancel the 2019 event due to COVID, which I think we only canceled on 2 weeks' notice because that's just where it was in terms of the outbreak, AMI had committed to broadcasting the first ever televised blind hockey game. So that was something that was going to be really exciting development. And I know that's something that's going to happen if we get back to Mattamy in March, which fingers crossed, everybody wants that. And I know we've got people from Finland that said they're coming. We got people from Sweden. We got people from England. So we very well may have 6 countries represented at that event. And then the only other major thing on the calendar would be the culmination of the season, I guess, with the 2022 Summer Development Camp, National Team Selection Camp, and Children and Youth Blind Hockey Camps, which are all going to run concurrently at St. Mary's University in Halifax at the end of July and start of August. So that should be one of the largest events we've ever done for blind hockey, certainly for a camp, as we're going to have all 3 different divisions going for the full 5 days.
Matt, there's no doubting that you are a busy man. You and your colleagues are working hard. Congratulations on the success thus far as we move towards the 10-year anniversary of these skates and celebrating 10 years of incredible success. And onwards and upwards, let's keep those skates pumping and keep on growing, man. This is fantastic news.
Well, thanks to you, Dave, for all the personal support and motivation, and then, of course, to AMI as our presenting partner for making sure that we can do our part to make hockey accessible to Canadians that are blind or partially sighted.
Heck yeah, it's a pleasure through and through. Matt, all the best. Thank you for waking up early, and have yourself a great day.
All right, take care.
That's Matt Morrow, the Executive Director of Canadian Blind Hockey, and he joined us this morning from Vancouver, BC. Do you want to dive into more conversations like this? Watch Now with Dave Brown weekdays at 9 a.m. Eastern on AMI TV or download the podcasts wherever you listen.